Okay, this is your professor here, Hector Camps, and we're going to go ahead and look at something I want to show you. So throughout the semester, we've been working on doing little models and experiments, and of course, you also have the platform, which is a whole animal by itself, right? So we need to talk about how do we consume models and how do we consume data on the platform. So, for example, throughout the semester, you're making models, and those models are going to something called a collaborative space called common space. So, to consume the models that we have, what I'm going to do, here we have a dashboard. This is my first dashboard. Remember, you have other dashboards. If you click on this little link here, you can have other dashboards, okay? You can even have custom dashboards. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and do that. So let's create a new dashboard. So we went to the plus sign. We're going to create a new dashboard. And we're going to leave it be an empty dashboard. And we'll call it ARC 2053. And we'll say here, my models from class. Seems logical. Sorry for the, let me rewrite that. My models from class. Be excited about that. My models from class, say that. Okay. So now we have an empty tab here. So what happens is you can actually build the dashboard to convey the information that you care about. As a matter of fact, it's even possible to make some dashboards public, which we didn't really explore in this one video that we're doing right now, but it can be. Theoretically, it might be something that we may want to even try this semester. So what now? Well, if you come here to the plus sign, right, the compass, you have dashboards that you have icons that have like a little arrow to the right side. Those are basically widgets, to use the correct terminology. These are widgets that run. A widget is like a small program. Okay, these are widgets that run on the dashboard. Okay, so for example, incredibly, believe it or not, as you probably already know, the xGenerative tool that we're using is a tool that runs in the cloud on a web browser. So it's a widget. So we're going to drag that widget and we're going to deposit it right there. Okay, in this new tab here, and I'm going to call it, let's call this tab My Models. A couple of M models there. My models, okay? Fantastico. Now that we have that set up, how do I find my model? Well, you know, you can run a search for the model, and that's all good, and that absolutely would work. And again, you can launch it from there, and thank God, because it wasn't like that before. Thank God it's like that now. So don't worry about how bad it used to be. Let's just be grateful for how good it is going forward, okay? But then again, you do want to be grateful for everyone who suffered before you, right? So it is working. So we want to go ahead and we want to pull this information from our drive. To do that, from our database on the cloud. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to drag space over here, okay? 3D space. Because everything is that we live in a 3D world. So all the tenants that you have access to show up here. I happen to have two here. One that's mine, and one happens to be connected to a school in California. Okay. So we have two tenants there, and for example, each of you have your own tenants at this point, or you may be connected to the schools. like University of Miami, or for example, you might be connected to a Miami-Dade School of Architecture, the SOI. So depending on how we're set up, either way, you're one way or another, regardless of which tenant you have, you're going to be connected to a common space. They all have it, okay? Common space is common for everybody in the organization or the institution that connects to a common drive, okay? So that's common space. In the real world, I tend to make collaborative spaces per project, but that's Hector Camps PHI Cubed in the real world, okay? Here, we're going to click on common space, and what's going to happen here, this is going to show us everything that we have in the platform. So I believe we can probably jump this thing over a little bit. These things expand and contract. And yesterday we made a model called guided tour. We did that for fun. That was actually, you could just see the icon here. So if you want to know how we made this model, just click guided tour, and this will take you through a tutorial that essentially helped us understand how to make our very first model using xGenerative. So if I want to see this model, again, we can do lots of things. We can click here, we can preview, we can do open with, okay, and that'll open up xGenerative, okay. We just want to look at it, we can do preview, and that would work too. It just shows the model. Now, if we want to look at it in xGenerative, we can also do a drag and drop, and we can deposit the model into the widget. So drag and drop has an additional function in Catia, which allows you to basically pull it from the database and just do a drag and drop function. So if you're working with, let's say, a tablet computer, you can just take your little finger, click on the model, and drag it into the other window. So welcome to the 21st century. And so that's how we're doing it today. Who knows how we'll be doing it tomorrow. But again, these things expand, they change, they grow, and getting used to the functionality is getting more intuitive and it's getting friendlier. So that is how we would do that. Okay. In a second or two, this is going to open up the model. And my intentions for this video is not only to just show you, again, how to create this custom dashboard and how to view this model from the database onto a widget. My second intention is to show you that the same model that we created in Imagine Shape, which we published, we'll talk about publication in a minute, which we published, is going to allow me to open it up in the rich client. This was something I wanted to do in class, but I had an error in my Catia, so basically I uninstalled and reinstalled, and now my Catia is working perfectly again. So I just had to do a few corrections there, and everything's back to working. And so here we are. I'm going to go ahead and start closing up some of these windows. Like, I don't need this right now. And you can see how these things expand. Over here, I'm just going to expand this. And there it is. Right? This is the model that we created in class. Okay. Fantastic. If we want, and this was an experiment we did using a lot of the scripting that we did here. Okay. One thing we didn't do was we didn't do any of the organizations. Like, we didn't do any of these kind of workflow organizations. Okay, but again, they're there, we can do them. Let's say this is the work here. Let's group that and call it the work. Okay, fantastic. The work. What's important about the work over here is the end of the work. So at the end of this whole process, what was really important was that at the end, we did this thing called publish. Now, why is publish important? Publish is important because, again, we're going across environments and we're going across technology. So publication in this sense is a way of making the geometry available to other applications, while preserving all the intelligence of what we did. Okay, so at this point I'm pretty happy. I'm going to just do Control-S and save. And we're saving the document. Fantastic. So let's go ahead and close this up for a moment. So that's what I wanted to show you, and I did, and we looked at it, and we're happy. The next thing I want to do, let me close this up a little bit. Okay, the next thing I want to do, we're going to go to a Catia rich client. So I'm going to come here, click, and I want to open up part modeling. We can run a search for parts. And I'm just going to launch part modeling here for a second. While this is launching, what we're going to do is when Catia part modeling opens up, we're going to then run a search in the database for a guided tour, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that I can open this model in Catia in part design. Even though it was not created in part design, I can open it up in part design and make changes. As a matter of fact, we'll even explore that a little bit further. We can make changes, and I think that is critical, right? That you can go across these different applications. If you look at the experience of, well, you may not know, because depending on how long you've been in the industry, you may not know how difficult some of these things are. So when you're going across applications, you're going to have what's called interoperability issues, which means that the receiving application can interoperate with the information, the geometry is coming in, and the tools can't talk to each other. They can't work. I always remember, we're talking about this semester, we're talking about why. One of my whys is to not have these interoperability problems which cause suffering and pain. Okay, that's again, throughout the semester, I'm going to be interjecting a why into everything that we're doing. So if you're working with, I hate to call it lesser technology, but less sophisticated technology, what's going to happen is you're going to inherit a lot of interoperability problems. Okay, so here we are in part design. Okay, you see I'm in part design. And let's see, Yep, I'm in part design. This opened up the model and what's called a 3D shape file. Let me right click here and run a local update. Okay. I'll click on that and you'll see a couple things, a couple interesting things. This is pretty much the shape file for the object that we worked on. Let me expand the tree here. Publish. Matter of fact, let me close it. Let me do it differently. Let's search the database. My content. And remember, usually speaking, the latest information that you have is usually towards the top. Okay, so here's my guided tour model. So I'm just going to come here and say open. And this is going to open up the model in part design. So notice that the product file, the physical product file, opened up, and the shape file is in here. And you can even just dump some of these zeros here that they don't really matter. Okay. Just scares the children, you know. Okay, so we got rid of those. Okay, so now what? Well, I usually like to look at the model in perspective, so I'm going to switch from parallel, I'm going to put it into perspective. Pretty nice. Okay, so this is a pretty nice complex piece of geometry we have here. So what can we do? So since we happen to be in, we're now in the rich client, and I'm in assembly design. When you're at this level, you're in something in Catia called assembly design. If I double click on a shape file, okay, I'm going to be back in part design. So in part design, I'm actually moving to the world of physical things. So I'm here under a part body, okay? So what does that mean? That means you have, remember sometimes we have geometrical sets, which allows us to put points, lines, and planes like reference geometries. Part bodies are when you start kind of making solid objects, okay? There are ways to do a hybrid where you mix, you know, advanced surfacing with part body, and that's what they call hybrid design. Just keep that for your information in the back of your mind. Okay, so what now? So I can, if I click here, I can either insert a body, or I can just work with this part body, okay? Any one of those would work, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna say in part body, and I wanna come here and use a tool called a thickness. If I click thickness, it wants an input. So I'm gonna grab the surface that we created, and you can see I can either grow this geometry inwards or outwards. So let's say the outside is the surface that matters that we want to preserve. We can change the orientation by either clicking the arrow here or clicking the arrow in the model. Either way, the result is the same. I'm going to do, let's do preview. What's kind of nice about preview is that preview keeps you in the geometry. One's a little much, let's do 0.25. Preview. 0.25 seems to be holding better together. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, the original model is still in this design sequence information, right? Here's the published geometries. This is what we published, right? If I hide that, remember I said that the polish basically is what makes it available. So here you can actually see it's an object. So that's fantastic. So I'm just going to hide that from there. If that's too much, you can just hide it from the top of the tree. We don't really need to see the whole thing. I can come here and hide it from there. And that works, okay? So now we have solid geometry. We have solid geometry that we can work with. So to give you an example of that, yeah, I'm going to put my final work object under part body. And let's say I want to run what's called a pocket. Okay, pocket looks like a hole. When I click pocket, I don't have a profile made. So I'm going to select let's see. I'll go ahead and do a sketch. And I'm going to pick a plane, like this YZ plane. I'm actually okay with that. So I'm going to go ahead and do OK. You can see it highlighted here in the model. And this is going to put me in that view. Let's switch the view back to parallel. Now here, under sketch, I'm just going to make a circle. And let's snap to the V direction. Okay. And I'm going to exit the sketch. Now here we can control. We can do two things. We have a first limit and a second limit. We can go to up to last, which is going to cut through, and then we're going to go up to last in the other direction. Click preview. Okay. And now we have a solid model that the geometry is basically going through the model. So we have an opening in the model. And you can see that this is solid geometry. To explore the solid geometry aspects of the model even further, if you click at the top of the tree and you come down to tools, you're going to find a clipping tool. Notice that when I do that, this switches to assembly design. So this icon here is an assembly, right? It's a collection of parts and shapefiles put together makes an assembly. So I'm going to use the clipping tool, and I'm going to run a section right through my model. This is called dynamic sectioning. So you can really understand what's happening at the component level as models go through your geometries kind of come together. So you can see that the model that we made was basically a surface model. Okay, so to get back into the part model inside of Catia, we're going to double click the shapefile one more time. And this brings us down to tree, which then shifts the environment to whatever tool we're working with. In this case, happens to be part design. And again, you can see all the part design tools are there available for you. Okay, which are great. These are a lot of these tools are a lot of them are feature-based modeling tools, and they give you a lot of power. Okay, they're easy and fun to use and not very complicated, but they're very, very effective, very powerful tools to use. So, okay, so then now what? Now let's look at let's experiment a little bit better. So here is remember I said we organize a tree with something that we call the work. All right, so let's expand the work. Fantastic, so if I expand the work, a lot of my parameters, a lot of the things that we did are kind of here. Let's see, size. See if we can change any of these here. That line, that sequence. We didn't do a lot of parameters. I think maybe we did some sequence. See how it's not editable. Also, maybe we can't edit at this level. And again, I was just kind of pushing. I want to see if I can push it a little bit better. So no, it can't be edited at this level. But that doesn't mean it can't be edited. So let's see how we can edit the geometry. And we'll come back to this. Let's just do a save here. And the reason I'm saying because I want to save what we did to the geometry. I want to save what we did to the part bar. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close this here. I'm not going to close down Catia so we don't have to wait for it to open. I'm just going to close down the application. And Catia is still running. Okay. This is what you call a warm start to Catia. So we'll leave the engine hot. Okay, so I'll go back to my guided tour and I'll drag it into here. So don't save. Go ahead and expand that. Ooh, I love surprises, beautiful surprises. Isn't that a beautiful surprise? Notice that the model that we did is now in our reality on a dashboard, on a computer screen, in perspective, okay? And the work continues to be integrated, okay? So let's look at our parameters. Then we come back here to the work. Here we have a parameter. Let's pull out this parameter for the moment. I don't know if we can stick them in there. Look, we plug them in. Okay, fantastic. So let's make this 150 millimeters. We'll close that out. And let's see what options. So we have solve, go over, refresh, reload. Let's do a solve. Ooh, wow, fantastic. So that ran the solve. And the model got bigger. Yet all the things that we did to it in the other application, like the stuff that we did to it in the part modeling environment, they're still holding together, and that's unbelievable. That's fantastic. So that's pretty darn good. I have to say, it is absolutely very, very good that we can work at this level and still be able to make edits and things. Okay, so anyway, so let's just check. For example, we want to see if this is true. Good time to save. Let's go back to Catia. Again, Catia has a warm start because we already have it open. Probably a good thing to do. It takes time to open Catia, so it's probably a good thing to just have it available so you don't have to waste time opening things. So my content. Here's the tour. The thing here, and just click open, and we'll see what happens. Ta-da! So we're in assembly design. I'm going to double click the shapefile. Should bring me one level lower. And let's look at the simple pocket we did here. I can move, find the endpoint here. I can move this guy up. As a matter of fact, if I want to put a parameter, I can say I want a parameter. Okay. Let's give it like something like 3. Right? So I can put a parameter to control that model. Okay. And that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with it. And again, the design sequence information, the work is all there, the end. Oh, let's say, let's put that at 6. Apply. My units might be different here. Okay, so again, there's a parameter that we have in the model. And it's the parameter is an end parameter. Okay. And that's actually working pretty well. You see, we'll poke around some more. And so I think, I don't know why it didn't work the first time. Maybe we were in specifications. Who knows? But you can see the parameter is working. And that's pretty good. Let me just do Control save. And we'll close it and come back to the model on the other side. So here, let's run, I'm going to take the shapefile and I'm going to run a manual update. Let's say to update design sequence manually, take design sequence update and press Control U. Control U. The learning process. Let me run an update here. And we'll see how that, we'll see the information updates. Usually way to update it, just I'm not there yet. One step at a time, right? We do research, we learn, we explore, we experience. I see that the information still has the old information. This here we have a global refresh. Let's see if global refresh will do the trick. Global refresh. Okay. So we went here, it's called a global refresh, and that basically solved it. So now we know. Okay. And we're in good shape. And there you have it, friends. That's where I wanted to kind of lead off from the class, where I wanted to show you that we can go, again, between the cloud-based application and the rich client application. We can create information, we can edit the model, and then when we're done and we're happy, we can then view that information on the web browser. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.